Gosh, it's been a long time since I've done this. Hello, this is Dr. Sacheen. Thank you for joining me today. Um, Let me make sure everything's working. I'm assuming I'm working. Okay. So I'm going to have to assume that you all can hear me because I can't see. I cannot see what is happening. I cannot see what is happening, but I'm assuming that you all can hear me. I guess I better find out. Hang on a second here. It's always something, right? Always, always. Go into YouTube, check check it out. Okay, so hopefully I'm coming through loud and clear. I am. I can hear myself. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to stop because it's really weird to have yourself in your ear. Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Sacheen here. Thank you for hanging out with me on a Sunday afternoon talking about defining your limitations. For those of you who don't follow my channel or don't know who I am, I'm Dr. Sacheen. I'm the host of the Bliss Report, a podcast for women over 40 who are starting over and ready to live their next best chapter of life at this point. I'm also a retired professor, taught for many, many years on the subject of communication and human relationships. I'm also a life coach, an author, a writer, and a writer. So, excuse me. So today we're talking about limitations and limiting belief systems. This actually came up because I was listening to another podcast, and what I was thinking about, what they were talking about, the things that you find yourself limiting yourself doing. Um, and most of the things that we limit ourselves from doing are because of our own limiting beliefs. Now, sometimes there's extra people in the world who have their own imposed expectations on us, but for the most part, we really do limit ourselves because of impossible is what I chalk it up to, because that's kind of the story for it. But it's so much deeper than that. So we're going to tackle that. So if you're tuning into this on the replay, tap hashtag replay if you decide to reply. Also, if you haven't yet, like and subscribe to the channel so we can chat more often. And in case, again, like I said, if you haven't been following me and this is your first time hearing, I am Dr. Sacheen, and I should have got my water. It's over there. I'll go get it. I'm Dr. Sacheen, and I, again, am the host of the Bliss Report podcast, the author of so many books designed to help women to get on their feet and live their next best chapter ever. Because life after 40 really opens up a whole fantastically different way. The sun is setting, so I've got a little bit of a glow happening this direction, and then I have my light up here. So hopefully the two don't compete too much. So yeah, let's talk about it. I've been doing some streaming talking about why it's okay to want to quit your job, why it's okay to want to leave an industry that you've been a part of forever, but it feels really like you can't leave. So check out, and I'll link to it in the replay. I'll make sure to link to the videos, but it's really important for us to talk about why it's so difficult, especially when we've reached a place in our life where we've accomplished a lot of things, but we're ready for something different. And here's the thing, you don't have to detest the life that you had to want to do something different. And in our 40s, what I find is that we start thinking about the dreams that we used to have, the things that we might have thought about doing, but life took us in a different direction. It sent us off into a different direction. And so at this point, when you turn around 40, 40-ish years old, you start thinking that maybe, just maybe, the dreams that you had may in fact be doable, but you also have a lot of other stuff, right? You have a lot of other stuff that is, you have a lot of responsibilities. If you have kids, you have family, you've got parents, you've got a career, all of these things. And so you might think to yourself, I don't have the capacity to do the things that I would like to be doing at this point in time in my life because I have all these responsibilities, I have all of these other things. So I follow a lot of the YouTube of transformational speakers and women who are doing the things that I think that every woman should be doing over 40, which is finding their feet, finding their life, finding their moment, finding their dreams. And at the beginning of the year, as I was putting together my own vision board, I was thinking about how, usually the vision boards of most of the women that I know are full of things that they want to accomplish, and they're dreaming about, but they're the dreams that make sense for this period of their life. They're usually very pragmatic: bigger house, bigger car, more money, more opportunities if they're an entrepreneur. But what I find is that there is a segment of women, and this is who I'm talking to, for whom the dream board is full of things that are so wildly different from what they're doing now that they're almost afraid to even think about them. So they make that vision board and they put all those things on there and then they put it away because they don't really want to see it, because they don't really believe that they can, in fact, achieve any of those things or pursue any of those things because they're older and they have this life and responsibilities, and so they begin to limit themselves. And part of that limitation is limiting their exposure to the things that they know they really want to be doing. They want to start a new career, they want to start a new business, they want to do so many things. Like, for instance, I've written a lot of nonfiction. I've one more book that I'm editing right now that I want to get out. It's called The Anti-Anxiety Formula. And I have a PhD. I've written a lot of stuff, a lot of really good stuff, but a lot of nonfiction stuff. And I'm finding that at this point in my life, I'd really love to focus more on fiction. So one of the things on my vision board was to shift into being a fiction writer. And I've already been working on a couple of projects, but they've always been just, work on it here, work on it there, work on it there, work on it there, but never really working in a way that would put me in a position to say, send a manuscript out to an editor or even submit something to a fiction magazine to just kind of dabble, get my feet wet, put myself over there. But that's something that's on my vision board. And I actually keep my vision board, a copy of it on my phone, so that I can't run away from the things that I want to see, because I happen to believe that you need to see and say the things that you want to happen into existence. So so I have been putting lots of limits on myself, though, because I keep thinking, okay, I've got to really maximize this degree that I have. I need to write these books that make sense, and then I can write books that maybe don't make sense for a woman who spent a lot of money to get this degree. And that's a limitation I placed on my life. I could have written books 5 years ago. I could have written books 10 years ago. Heck, I could have written books while I was getting my PhD. But instead, I do what Julia Cameron called, I size shifted my life into a size that I felt like was the right size for someone with a PhD. And what that means is, when we think about our life, we tend to think about a fairly defined set of parameters around that life, right? We put ourselves in a certain size box. We put ourselves in a certain size carafe, if that's what you like. But hang on, I'm going to close the blind. Okay, that's better. We put ourselves into a certain size wine goblet. And because we do that, we are limiting ourselves to exactly what we can do within the confines of this particular wine goblet. That's what's called size shifting, SIZE shifting thinking, Miss Cameron. And so what we do is we try not to take up too much space with our lives, because we know we have to live our lives confined in a certain way. Well, when you start thinking about dreams or goals or different ideals than you're currently living, you have to be willing to size shift up. You have to be willing to think about your goblet as much bigger. In fact, you might need to stop thinking a goblet and begin thinking a carafe, right? You might need to begin to stop thinking the limitations and start thinking the explosion of boundaries that would allow you to get to the dream that you want to see. Now, like I said, I follow a lot of women, especially on YouTube. One day I hope to meet a lot of them, but I follow them on YouTube. And I love watching women coming into their own, really picking up and having the courage to take their dream that has been size shifted down into a box on a corner tucked underneath their bed, watching them pull that dream out of the box and blow off the sides and say, okay, how big of this dream can I dream it? How big can I really dream this dream? And then taking the cues from the universe, the cues from the dream that says you can dream it. If you can dream it big, you can dream whatever you want. So dream it as big as you want to. Now I'm going to list the reasons why people, especially women of a certain age, choose not to size shift their life into a bigger reality. Number one, because we have all these responsibilities. I already covered that, but it's important to come back to it. We have a lot of responsibilities with people who are depending on us. We've got bills to pay. We've got stuff. And because number two, there's an expectation that we're going to be settled, that we have done a lot of stuff. We have the fun 20s, and then we got the degree 30s, and now we got the settling down 40s, right? And then we have the work hard 50s, and then the retirement 60s if you're lucky, and if not, then you just get the work hard 50s, work hard 60s, work hard 70s. But what happens when you're like, but I don't want my life to look like that? Expectations will keep us very much where we have always been and will not allow us to go where we think that we want to go. And the third reason is that we don't have a group of people, we don't have a support system that encourages us to move on, to blow off the sides of the box and say, well, I understand who you've been and I'm perfectly happy that you want to go and be somebody different. How can I help you get there? As an adult, it is very difficult to find those kinds of people. And so it can feel very lonely and isolating to think that you're going to upend your world to pursue a dream of having a next best chapter of starting over without a support system, without a group of people saying, look, we'll support you in this. We'll help you figure it out. We'll help you move along. We'll help you get there. And so people don't, because who wants to be lonely and outcast? Who wants to be criticized? Who wants to have their whole world exploded? Because you might own a home, own a car, a 401k, all the accoutrements that come with a certain style of life. But here's the thing: if you're not really, if this style of life that you're living is not what you want to keep living, is a life where you can't scratch, continues to get worse. Because what do we know? We know that a deferred dies, but it doesn't die just a silent death in the corner. It kicks and screams and gnashes its teeth and says, are you serious? You're just going to let me go? And you know that it's doing that when you are sitting in a, amphitheater or a venue, and you're watching something and you realize and you remember, God, I used to love to sing. Gosh, I used to love to compose. Gosh, I used to love to play the guitar. And I remember how good I was at it, or how I was getting good at it. And I remember wanting to be a music major and being told there's no money in music majoring. And I remember just all of these things about my life. I thought I turned that off. I guess I didn't. About my life and about who I thought I could be one day. And yet here I am sitting in this venue, and the dream hits you like this tsunami, right? And all of a sudden you are trying to figure out, wow, like who is this woman and why are you sad? Like, why are you sad about the fact that you don't play guitar anymore? You don't have time to play guitar. Because our dreams don't go quietly. They go kicking and screaming and saying, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? All the while we're closing the door on them, right? Closing the door on them, closing the door on them. And the expectation is that your dreams are for a certain period of your time, and then they might come back around at the end of your life. But you don't, there's this chunk of your life that you don't get to have too many dreams. And you need to keep within the confines of the limitations that you've placed on your life. And I'm arguing, and hopefully someone out there will hear this one day, you're giving away the best years of your life in service to things that you don't want. How is that a dream? That's a nightmare. That is absolutely a nightmare existence. And so instead of thinking about how you can, well, before I have like notes over here. Um, what happens if you take stock of the world that you have created for yourself up to this point and ask yourself, if I had to get rid of 5 things in my life right now to make myself ultimately happy, what 5 things could I get rid of? What 5 things would I just let go? And whether that's material things, whether that's relationships, whether that's vocation, whether that's investments, whether that's attitudes, beliefs, and values, what are 5 things that you could punt and get rid of to get you one step closer to the life that you want to see? Because let's face it, if you're listening to this live, if you're listening to this live or replay, then something about giving up your limits is resonating with you at this point in your life. And if you are hearing my voice and you are wondering if there is a sign in the universe that you are supposed to start taking seriously that itchy thing, that itch against your spine that you cannot scratch because it's driving you crazy, but every time you hear a certain music or you see a certain instrument, it just gets worse because it's your dream calling. If you're hearing this, here's your sign. And here are some ways to start thinking about how to incorporate the to blow off some limitations, to stretch some limitations, and bring into your life that which you actually want to do for the next 20, 30 years. Because let's face it, if you're in your 40s, 50s, or 60s, the miracles of modern medicine have made it abundantly clear that we're going to be around for a while. We're going to be around for a while, barring a disaster that you cannot do anything about. If you're still here, you're probably going to be here. So let's, live like we're going to be here for another 20 years. And then you want to ask yourself, okay, so if what I'm doing right now is how I'm living right now, the way that I intend to live in 20 years, is this what I want to do? Do I want to keep going? And then when you start asking yourself the next question, which is, okay, so she said, what are 5 things that I could get rid of to begin moving my life into the space where I can begin to pursue the dreams that I want to pursue? Not even pursuing the dreams yet. Just begin moving your life into a space where you could pursue the dreams. What would happen if you just started moving in that direction? What would you do with those 5 things? Would you make the list and go, well, that was a nice exercise, I'm going to put it away now because I can't do that. I mean, that I can't do that. I can't get rid of this person. I can't stop doing this thing. I can't say no to this particular behavior all of a sudden. So you then have a choice. And that's why it's important to ask yourself if you're willing to spend the rest of your life in as if this moment never ends. Because what really happens to us, right, is that we live the same day over and 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 over again. And the days just continue passing, looking much like the day before, and the year passes looking much like the year before. And then next thing you know, we're 10 years down the road and we have literally lived the same kind of existence. I mean, we change clothes, we get our hair done, we might buy a new car, we might upgrade a house, downgrade a house, we might take a vacation here or there, but ultimately the life that we're living pretty much looks the same every single day. I mean, we don't vary. We're creatures of habit. We don't vary too much. And so if we're creatures of habit and we don't vary too much, oh, let me move the chat over here. And we don't vary too much anyway, then ask yourself if this is the day that I'm willing to continue to live every single day for the rest of my life. Is that the day? Is the day that you just lived one that you are completely ready to live for the rest of your life? Or are you willing to take a moment and think about your dreams and then act on the 5 things that you could do in service to your dream today that would make your day look different tomorrow and the next day? Maybe you do one thing this week and then you do something else next week and begin to compound the changes over time. Because, like I said, water drips on stone eventually, or I didn't say, but water drips on stone. Eventually, all of the days that you live that look exactly like the day before are going to lead to one inevitable conclusion: the same day. Like they're going to I mean, you're going to live that day until the day you die because that's the day that you've chosen to live. Or you can be the rock, the water dripping on the rock, understanding that you're going to move this rock. People may not realize that the rock is moving, but what do we know about rocks and water? Water is moving that rock. A little bit at a time, but it's moving that rock. Sometimes not a little bit at a time, but for the most part, a little bit at a time. It's moving that rock and it's moving it and it's moving it and it's moving it. It's moving it. And then before you know it, whole countries have moved and shifted. And whole rock formations have moved and shifted. And all of a sudden there's a river where there wasn't one, or there's a bigger river where there wasn't one, or all of a sudden the embankments are gone and there is no longer a safe river. Now we have a raging torrent because over time the water's gonna move that stone. But see, here's the thing. We're not the water most of the time. We're just the stone. And we just get dripped on by everything happening in our lives. And we just get moved because we have placed ourselves in a box. And our box is we're going to continue to live this day like this, like this, like this, until something outside of ourselves comes along and disrupts the circuit and disrupts the movement. Something else is our water. Something else comes along and just moves us, whether we got married or had a baby, took in our parents, quit a job. Like and something else comes along and moves us because we're unwilling to move ourselves because we are afraid that we don't have the expansiveness to really pursue the life that we want to see. Now, like I was saying, this thing called size shifting. Thank you, Julie Cameron. I'm going to keep saying it so I don't forget. Um, when you think about size shifting your life up to a bigger container where your limitations where you currently are there, that they don't like, they can't hold the container, it's too big. You should come up against a crisis of identity. You should feel like, okay, well, who am I if I'm not this? That's where you want to be, because you know the dream requires you to be somebody different than you are right now. So when you decide to size shift yourself up, you also have to ask yourself, who am I going to need to become the thing that I want to be? Who am I going to become the thing that I want to be? Who do I need to be today to become the person that I see tomorrow? And do you see her? Do you see who she is? Do you see yourself in that moment? Do you see yourself at your computer writing? Do you see yourself with the violin in your hand? Do you see yourself at the piano singing? Do you see yourself at the master gardening class, with your first client in your new gardening business? Do you see yourself there? And then do you ask yourself, okay, who am I that I need to get there? Who am I so that I can get there? Who am I and who do I need to become? Size shifting, moving ourselves out of our limitations, breaking apart the box that we have placed ourselves in to make life okay is scary. There is so much fear that is present in all things, right? But being scared is not the same as being fearful and afraid of action. In one of the books that I wrote, which was Overcoming Imposter Syndrome, I talk about, I think I talk about it in that book. I also talk about it in Magic Starting Over, the idea that we can get so paralyzed, right, that we don't know what to do. So we start to procrastinate and self-sabotage and just we sit on our thumbs. We sit on our hands and our thumbs and we say, I don't know what to do. And then we do nothing. We do absolutely nothing. And because we do nothing, we find ourselves living the same day, next day, the next day, and the next day. You know it. Well, we listened to that YouTube video lady last month, and oh yeah, remember she said something about like what 5 things can we? Okay, great. If you remember me in a month and you start with the 5 things, fantastic. That's awesome because at least you remembered, and now you can get started. But if you listen to all of the videos and you read all the books, you join the book clubs, you watch the whatevers, and you still aren't living the kind of life that you deserve to live, that you want to live at this point, then you have decided not to size shift. You've decided that it's safer to be in this box because everybody else is in this box with me, and I don't know how to get out of the box. I don't know how to get out of the box. I don't know how to do it. And if you don't know how to do it, I wrote a book called The Magic of Starting Over, which I will link to somewhere, called The Magic of Starting Over, which comes with a book and a checklist. So you can, if you don't want to read the whole book all the time, there's checklists that you can use as you're plotting how to start over. And in it, I talk about what it means to start over, how you start over, the process of starting over, and getting yourself to the point where you're like, okay, we're doing it. We're just doing it. We're just doing it. And that starts with deciding that the dreams that you have on that vision board that you made and put away, tucked it away, that the dreams that you have on the vision board, the things that you want to do, the places that you want to be, the people that you want to meet, the life that you want to live, requires you to act, to size shift your life in a new direction. And in the size shift, you may find that you've been living in a teacup when you should have been living in a teapot. Maybe that's good enough. But maybe you've been living in a wine glass. You should have been living in a wine bottle. Maybe you've been living in a 40-room mansion. And what you really needed to be living in was a tiny house because you thought size was all about going up. Sometimes our dreams allow us to come back, to scale, to remember who we are. as we're attached to the earth. I follow a couple of women who are tiny house people. And I don't have necessarily a desire to live in a tiny house, but I love the tiny house community for the ethos that comes with the tiny house movement. And that is the ability to live well with less, still have a wonderful, amazing, full, opulent, abundant life with less stuff, with less response, and not just the stuff, the physical stuff, the stuff, but also the stuff that keeps you trapped in the everyday grind, the stuff that keeps you in relationships that aren't working, the stuff that keeps you raising kids in certain ways that aren't really feeding their creativeness, but are going to make them great warehouse workers one day. This stuff, right? And so just because your size shifting doesn't mean that you're going to shift, and it doesn't mean you're going to shift upward, but what it does mean is that you have to blow past the limitations that are holding you, that are holding you tight, that are keeping you confined, that are bringing you into um, another day, another month, another year of the sameness that you have no joy in, that you have no joy in, that you can't find the bliss in anymore because there's just no bliss left. It's been sucked out by all the responsibilities that are packed into this one little box that you are living, because they're, for most of us, the box that we live in is crowded. It's crowded, it's cramped. There are a lot of people, a lot of stuff, a lot of responsibilities, a lot of stuff, lots of stuff. And so we are lost inside our own box. We're lost in there. If you think about that, if you think about being lost inside your own box, like you've created this box, you've set limitations for yourself, you've agreed to live inside this boundary, you've agreed to take on responsibilities, you've agreed to do all of these things, you've made these implicit and explicit agreements, these tacit and verbal agreements, these emotional contracts, you've done all the right things, the right things. Come to find out, you can't find yourself in that box if you tried. Everybody else is good in that box, but you are literally lost inside your own life. You are lost inside your own existence. And here's why it's time for you to stop being lost. If you are listening to this, I have made it abundantly clear that I am over 40. I'm talking to women who have reached an age in their life, but I'm really talking to anyone. But specifically, I'm talking to women who have reached an age in their life where the box, no more. The box that we've been lost in is not palatable anymore. The box no longer serves its purpose because we don't want it to serve its purpose. And so I'm talking about those women who want out, who want to start over, who have, and I come from the world of higher education. I was a teacher, college professor for 15 plus years. And the one thing I know is that when you are a profession, a vocation, so to speak, of a certain kind, it is difficult to move out of the box that you find yourself in, because that defines your life. It defines your life. Tell people that I have a law degree, what I really want to be is a master gardener, because they don't want to hear it. They're gonna think you're crazy. Like you went to school, you got a JD, you've been practicing law for like 15 years, and you want to go create gardens and grow chickens. Like how does that work? I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you if you've been teaching in higher education and you are like, no, I don't want to keep doing this. There's not enough money. So if you haven't seen my video about the high cost of not pursuing something outside of your vocation, please check it out, because one of the things about fitting ourselves into a certain box is that we limit what we can do with our lives, and that means we are limiting our own abundance. We are deciding that our abundance comes attached to this box. And remember, we have limits in this box. We have limits. We put them there, but there's still limits, and we cannot do anything about those limits, which means uh, I can only work how many hours. I got a family to take care of. Money's always tight. Something's always breaking down. I've got, if I'm married, my partner's working, I'm working, we've got kids. Like, we're in this box and we can't get out of this box. So therefore, I don't want to talk about it. I talked about extensively why you've got to get out of the box in the best years of your life. Stop giving the best years of your life to boxes going to keep you broke. But that's a different video. But when you are part of certain vocations, it can be very difficult to say, I'm going to leave this behind, the security of this behind, and pursue something else. Because though there is security here, there is so much not secure about this box. There's so much not secure that been willing to turn a blind eye to, but that I just can't anymore. Even though no one understand why you would quit your job to go write a novel. Like, why would you take a sabbatical and write a novel? You need to be writing for tenure. You need to be writing for professorship. You need to be writing to add to the academic um, library of ideas. You do not need to be out there trying to write a true crime novel. What is wrong with you? And yet, and yet, what if that brings you the most joy? What if you could take 6 months off and excuse me and write? What if you decided that not only am I going to take a sabbatical for a year or two, I'm going to move to another country while I do it? What if you said, I want a grown up gap year? I follow Stephanie Perry. I'm going to link to her. And she took a grown up gap year, which I think is the best thing ever. I'm working on it. But if you decide that in the fullness of your being, that you have had enough, that you can no longer continue to do the box, that you need to size shift hard because it's 2022. I don't know about you, but I got a birthday coming up this year. I had one last year. I'm going to have one next year. Universe willing, I'm going to still be here. And my son would appreciate it because he needs me. But, I'm going to have a birthday this year in a few months. And then I'm going to have another one. I don't know about you, but at some point, those birthdays come faster and faster and faster. And the life that you want to see, the one that's on your vision board, the dreams that really itch at your spine, they still don't go away. Why do you think Colonel Sanders was in his 60s or 70s when he started KFC, when he got the secret recipe? Why do you think the guy who founded Grey Goose Vodka was like 72 when he founded a vodka company? We hear all the stories of people who were in their 20s and 30s working out of their garages on their dreams, like powering through. A lot of us don't have that. We didn't have that in our 20s. We didn't know what we wanted to do. We had no clue. We had dreams. We also had folks in our ears going, this is your box. This is who we are. This is who we are as a people. You need to fit in this box somehow. You need to make it your own, but this is the box. And to be told at 40 that you can't move boxes, I say you can. 5 years ago, whew, five and a half. 5 years, five and a half years ago, I was living in the Pacific Northwest, Washington State. Beautiful up there. Absolutely. I was thinking about that today. Absolutely one of the most gorgeous places on the planet. It's just lovely if you like mountains and trees and whatnot, which I do. I didn't live in the mountains and trees part. I lived in what's called the high desert because the state of Washington has 6 different ecosystems, and I just happened to land in the desert at the foothills of the Cascade Mountain Range. So there are these beautiful mountains in the distance. I lived in the desert. After the course of time that I spent there, I was there almost 6 years, I realized that I no longer had any desire to live in the desert again. I was over it. I was like, I'm done. No more desert. I've done it. It's beautiful. There's a beauty in the desert. I've been to the desert of Arizona. I've lived in the deserts of Washington. Deserts are pretty. I'm over it. No more. So I decided to move to the opposite end of the country. Totally shifted coasts. It's been fantastic. It's been a lot of fun. What I have realized though is that my box is ready to be sized again. And part of my sizing is expanding into this place of wanting to help women say yes to what they want to do. By my own example, I can tell you that, if I flipped my computer around, you would see that my wall is covered in Post-it notes because I plan my life on my walls. It's the best canvas ever because it's right there. It's very big. I have always believed that the best thing that you can do is the thing that scares you half to death. And so with a 2.5-year-old, I moved across the country. Trust me, it was deep. And I found a new life. And now I'm reaching towards new things that scare me. But I have systems in place to help me get there. And I understand the process of right sizing my life and how to navigate some of the fears and trepidations that come with that, especially because college professor, PhD, I went for one of the heavy hitter things, vocations. Sure did. And so having those that understanding of what it feels like to decide that the box that you're in is no longer the box that you want to be in. I understand how that feels and how big of a responsibility that can feel and how that can feel paralyzing when you've invested so much and you're just like, but I don't want to do this no more. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And so, as you're thinking about the 5 things in your life that you need to get rid of to start moving forward, tell me about them. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you've been thinking about would be the thing that you could start leaving behind, even if it's just a behavior that you really need to stop. The things that you could leave behind right now that wouldn't feel so scary, and then commit in the next day, if it's something that you can do in a day, to begin leaving that thing behind, to to say, I'm going to stop doing that because that's not in service to who I'm trying to become, which should lead to the question of, so who are you trying to become? And then you go from there. So that's all I got for today. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate everyone who catches this live. And for those of you on the replay, again, when you respond, just hit hashtag replay. Thank you so much. It's Dr. Sacheen. Please like and subscribe to like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn notifications, and I will see you all again tomorrow. Take care. Bye now.